Right, hey guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. So the Spanish Grand Prix has come to a close, and what could be said about that race? It was alright for Barcelona, I suppose, really, wasn't it? There wasn't much happening at the front. The mid-pack was quite exciting at times, it must be said. There was some quite nice overtakes after the first round of pit stops. People undercutting, people overcutting, meeting in the middle. But when it's for outside the points or just on the cusp of the points, you know, it's exciting, but you're like, oh, I really could do with this for the lead, to be honest. But I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out of a maximum of 10 points based on their race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points though. They're sometimes an offer for some drivers that do something extra special in a race, and on the rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers that do something extra special but for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look at the current Crawl Room standings then. They're on the screen now for you to take a look at going into the Spanish Grand Prix points. Have a think about what your driver's done this weekend. Am I going to be slating him? Am I going to be raving about him? And see whether he's going to fall or climb on this points table. There's still a lot of races left. It is still all to play for, but Fernando Alonso still sitting proudly at the top at the moment. So let's kick things off then with the race winner, of course, Max Verstappen. Oh yeah, Max Verstappen wins again. We know. But once again this weekend, he didn't put a foot wrong, did he? It's like Monaco, you know. We know it's the car, you know, the car gives him the advantage, but he has just got so much bloody talent, hasn't he? You know, and it started to get a little bit annoying, really, to be honest with you. You know, he's not having to, he can't even moan. You know, he's got to a point now where he's that far ahead. I can't even dock him points for moaning because he's literally got nothing to moan about. He's 20 seconds up the road. He's a pit stop ahead. It can stick wet tyres on it and still win the bloody race with 40 laps left to go. Doesn't matter. Just do anything. You know, his wheel could fall off. He'll still win. You know, so, yeah, he's just perfect at the moment, isn't it? The car and driver combination of Max and Red Bull is just working in perfect harmony at the moment, and it's just unstoppable. It is unstoppable. So, you know, a lot of people are still fucking moaning about things that happened last year with him winning the championship and the year before that when he won the championship. So I think this year it might be Max's first genuine championship win, as the idiots would say. But yeah, there's literally nothing to answer for this weekend, is it? He did his third Grand Slam this weekend, so he's on the board now. It was really, really surprising to see Jim Clark with 8 Grand Slams in an era where his racing career was cut tragically short. He didn't enter half the amount of races he should have done. The reliability back in the 60s was piss poor. And he still managed to do 8 Grand Slams. And for those that are unaware of what Grand Slam is, it means you were pole position in qualifying, you led every single lap of the race, you got the fastest lap of the race, and of course you won the race. So yeah, for Jim Clark to achieve that feat 8 times in such a tragically short career, yeah, wow, what an incredible effort by him. But yeah, you know, Max's race was that mundane. Yeah, not talking about Jim Clark, but yeah, Jim Clark, an absolute legend of the sport. I don't think Max would ever get to that level. I mean, friggin' hell, even Lewis Hamilton didn't, even with all the years of dominance that the Mercedes had. So, yeah, I mean, that really goes to show how impressive that is, to be honest. I might award Jim Clark 12 points on the Crawl Room, to be honest, because that's a feat that I don't think anyone's going to beat, not even Max. So, yeah, his third Grand Slam of the weekend anyway. And, yeah, it's got to be a perfect 10, hasn't it? It's got to be a perfect 10 for Max. He was hooked up, the car was hooked up. The only session he didn't lead was Q1, where he got blocked by Pierre Gasly, didn't he? Got blocked by Pierre Gasly on his final flying lap, which would have probably put him first. So, yeah, that was the only time he didn't lead a session all weekend. So that's just incredible, ridiculous. And we know why he didn't lead it as well, you know. There's an actual answer for it. So, yeah, a perfect 10 to Max this weekend. Jim Clark gets an honorary 12 points for that. That 8 Grand Slams is unbelievable. Congratulations to him. And like I said, a career that was cut tragically short. He could have won a lot more titles and done a lot more things. But yeah, as for Max Verstappen, 10 points this weekend for his impeccable performance at Barcelona. Finishing in second place is Lewis Hamilton. Wow, oh, wow. Are these side pods working? I think there might be, you know. I think there might be. Finishing in second place. What a great effort by Lewis Hamilton this weekend. You know, qualifying fourth. Or did he qualify fifth and then... How did it work? Where did Gasly qualify? Gasly qualified fourth, dropped to 10th, didn't he? So, yeah, Hamilton 10th, elevated to fourth, that's right. Yeah, and then in the end, the Mercedes team, that they did the strategy of like what the others didn't. So they stayed out. They stayed out a lot longer than the other cars around them did, and that paid dividends in the end. Much fresher tyres at the end, built the gap up still while everyone else was still squabbling behind. It really did pay dividends for the Mercedes squad, and great strategy call there. But Hamilton just seemed to have the measure of George all weekend, to be honest, and you know, from the Mercedes camp, he looks a lot more comfortable. He said he was in talks with Toto Wolff Monday morning at the time I record on the Tuesday. Yeah, so he was in talks with Toto about extending the deal at Mercedes. There's rumours about him potentially going to Ferrari. I don't think Lewis is going to Ferrari anytime soon. Why would he? Why would he? You know, the Mercedes team seems to be improving. Ferrari are going backwards still. And yeah, there's no need for Lewis to move. If he does want to have a chance of winning another world title, I think it would come from Mercedes rather than anyone else. Obviously Red Bull, but Red Bull would never have him. But yeah, you know, overall this weekend for Lewis Hamilton, it was just a great weekend overall. So solid, just a solid performance throughout the session, throughout the weekend once again. You know, qualifying, but we've always seen this with Mercedes, isn't it? They're still just working the tweaks and getting there, of getting a one-lap pace in. But, you know, starting fourth, and he made the best of it, and finishing in second place. Second only to Verstappen. I mean, that's a win, really, isn't it now? It's like a bloody B team, isn't it? When we used to be like, oh yeah, well, if you're seventh, that's first of the B runners. It's like second place, well, you've technically won the race there. So yeah, for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, he's joining Max Verstappen with a perfect 10. I can't fault a thing from this weekend. I think he just drove really well. It was a great strategy call, great team calls all the way along. Hamilton got second, deserved it. Job's a good one. Nice to see them all smiling as well. 10 points to Lewis Hamilton. Then we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for that wet track at turn 5. Yeah, there you go. He was just getting a bit hot and sweaty and steamy, wasn't he, George Russell? And noticed some drops on his visor, but as it turns out, they're on the inside, and he was sweating a little bit. Yeah, there was no rain coming, George, I'm afraid. Here he is finishing in third place. What a great weekend for Mercedes. Second and third, they secure second place in the Constructors for now, ahead of Aston Martin, who had a little bit of an off weekend, but we'll come to them in a moment. Yeah, you know, George this weekend drove really well, but there was that incident in qualifying in Q2 where those two Mercedes cars came together, and that was dangerous, and that was all on George Russell. I'm sorry. Yeah, we had the little bit of the Ferrari off to the right-hand side of the track. George was just finishing a lap as Hamilton was starting his. So yeah, it was a little bit tight, but my God, that was very, very, very lucky that there weren't an airborne car situation there. You know, had Hamilton not jinked as quick as he did, he could have easily caught the front wheel on the rear wheel. We could have seen an aeroplane accident there, and that could have been really, really nasty. Yeah, I have to penalise that. I'm sorry, I do have to penalise that, because that was dangerous. I mean, the fact there was no penalty for it. I mean, what is it with it's okay if teammates hit each other, or it's okay if teammates block each other? Like, no, a penalty is still a penalty. You have to apply it equally to all cars, and that really could have knocked Hamilton out of Q2 had he not got a good enough lap time in prior, because that was Hamilton's session over with, and it could have been his Q3 over with as well. It was lucky there were no suspension damage. You know, and yeah, he should have said, yeah, you should have told me he was on a hot lap. Yeah, okay, fair enough, George. I get that, but you've literally crossed the line to complete your qualifying lap time, and you've just immediately lifted off the throttle when there's a slow-moving Ferrari there. You knew your teammate were behind you because you didn't know he was on a hot lap, but you knew he were there. Yeah, that is the only thing I can really fault with George this weekend. Yeah, I just think I have to penalise it because I was so unimpressed with it. I've got to be honest, I was thinking, fucking hell, if he doesn't do much in the race, he's going to be a Latifi just for that alone. But I've not awarded him a Latifi, as you can tell. But it's 6 points. It's 6 points. And people are going to probably say that's generous. But yeah, 6 to George for that move. And solely that move alone, I do have to penalise it because that was fucking dangerous. And yeah, could have really cost both cars, both drivers. Could have been heavy damage to both cars. It just could have been so much worse than it was. And it was a silly mistake on George's part. So yeah, 6 points to George Russell. Still love him to bits. But yeah, that has to be punished. 6 points to George the Russell. Finishing in 4th place, it is Checo Sergio Perez. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. There's no excuse for this, is there really? He just avoids a Latifi. I mentioned it in the comments to someone that I was speaking to prior to this video going up. I was like, there's going to be a lot of low scores here this weekend. But there's not going to be many Latifis because everyone sort of underperformed or everyone sort of excelled. It was not really in between. Don't worry, there's a couple of Latifis coming though. But for Sergio Perez, he just escapes a Latifi. But out in Q2, what's all this about? You know, what is all this about? Finishing 4th, courtesy of strategy more than pace, because he was looking like he was going to be around the 7th, 8th, 9th area, realistically, but the strategy got him up to 4th and elevated him there. And obviously there's surprising lack of pace of Ferrari's Sainz again, but, you know, just, I can't really say much about it, to be honest. It was just poor. Just very, very poor this weekend from Sergio Perez, and finishing 4th is some consolation, but that car should be 2nd, and that's the end of that. It should be, and that there's no excuse for a Q2 elimination. I'm sorry. It's worth mentioning as well that I forgot to mention with George Russell that he had a Q2 exit as well, didn't he? Qualifying 12th. So yeah, 2 big names went out there in Q2, and it was unacceptable from both. So yeah, Sergio Perez, 3 points. 3 points on the cruel room to him, and he needs to be thankful I've awarded him that. Because there can't be any excuses now, and he just keeps saying, yeah, I need to have a good weekend, need to have a good weekend. Done another shitter. Need to have a good weekend, need to have a good weekend. Does another shitter. It's just not good. Not good. So yeah, 3 points to Checo. Then we come to Carlos Sainz. Smooth operator. Smooth operator. Yeah, he's doing what he can in the car he's got, really, isn't he, Sainz? It must be said. Where did he qualify? Was it 2nd or 3rd? I can't quite remember. I can't fucking hell. My mind's gone blank. Was he 2nd or 3rd? Either way, it was he was 2nd. Of course he was 2nd. God, Lando was 3rd. Yeah, bloody hell, bosom chums there. Yeah, so 2nd place for Carlos Sainz. And he looked to have a good start. You know, he was doing quite well. He maintained position quite well, quite nicely. And then just tumbled away with the relative lack of pace and not as good a strategy as the other 4 ahead of him from Ferrari. Yeah, finishing 5th place, but he did what he could, didn't he? Did what he could. And his teammate did a lot worse. So yeah, for Carlos Sainz, it's going to be 8 points on the cruel room to him. And yeah, that's the end of that, really. Not much to say about his race. Just, it looks so strong, and then it just goes fading away. To the point where we're happy that he got 5th. God's sake. So yeah, 8 points to Carlos Sainz. Finishing in 6th place, it is Lance Stroll. Bloody hell. Bloody hell, Lance. Have we had a good weekend this weekend? Someone watched my cruel room from Monaco? Is someone listening, or has Daddy given you a really stern talking to and a smacked bottom if you don't do better? I'm not sure. It might be a combination of both, but I'm going with the latter because I reckon Lawrence Stroll's got a big fucking paddle in his closet somewhere. Going to be like 50 Shades of Stroll. So yeah, for Lance Stroll this weekend, he's actually done quite well, hasn't he? Finishing in 6th place. I mean, we call it 6th place. It's mediocre, but that's normally when Alonso's finishing P2. But yeah, Lance Stroll, P6, finishes ahead of his teammate because Alonso didn't want to overtake him. I like your thinking, Fernando. I do like it. Appreciate it. But yeah, Lance Stroll had a good weekend. Needs a bit of a confidence boost. Finished ahead of his teammate. Out-qualified his teammate. Yeah, I can't really fault it, to be honest. 9 points. 9 points to Lance Stroll because he's been threatened by his daddy's naughty paddle. That's what's happened there, isn't it? Daddy's naughty paddle and his kinky pink handcuffs. 9 points to Lance Stroll. Finishing in 7th place, it is Fernando Alonso. And what a shame for his run of podium finishes and his fantastic results sort of coming to an end here at Spain. Yes, it's still more points on the board, but it's just 6 compared to the regular no less than 12 over the course of the previous races. Bit of a duff weekend for Alonso this weekend, and it was all due mainly to that qualifying error he had where he damaged his rear floor. Of course, that floor couldn't be replaced because they didn't have a spare of the exact same component, and obviously once you're in qualifying, it's mitigated. You can't be changing parts for different parts. It has to be exactly the same. And Alonso didn't have a spare of the exact same floor, so they repaired the damage as best as they could, but it was still hindered. Hindered him a lot more in qualifying, where they're just whacking the tape out and trying to glue gun it and everything. Finessed it a little bit more for the race, but was still impacted by that. It was all his own doing, and that's the first mistake we've seen all season from Alonso. He could have easily finished 6th place. We know that. The pace of him in those last few laps was just excellent compared to Stroll, but he came over the radio. He's like, "Tell Lance, no stress. I'm just going to sit here, wave to the crowd while I'm driving round. Don't worry about me, lads. I'm happy with 7th place. We'll just score the points." Because realistically, we know, and Fernando knows, that it's not a championship winning car this year. It could be next year, though. Let's get on Daddy's good side. Let's get on Lawrence Stroll's good side. There's no need to fight between teammates, cost each other potential points, especially when you've got the likes of Gasly catching up. There's Sonoda behind. You know, there's some hot, feisty drivers there where every point counts. Let's just take it easy. Let's just take it for a nice afternoon stroll, pardon the pun, and I'll just sit behind my teammate. Quite happy for these last few laps, thank you very much. I'll just use his DRS and not overtake him. Fantastic stuff, well thought out. So for Fernando Alonso this weekend, it's going to be 7.5 to him on the Cruel Room. Yeah, disappointing to see him down here in 7th, but his run had to come to an end at some point. The Aston Martin wouldn't have looked like podium potential this weekend anyway, especially with the strategies ahead of the Mercedes and Red Bulls, of course. But I think had he not had the floor issue, it'd have been 5th. Had he overtook Stroll, it'd have been 6th. So he was still losing out a couple of places there from where he should have finished, in my mind, based on what he's done previously. So yeah, a top 5 finish went begging. 7th place in the end, making a wise decision to stay behind his teammate. Get some brownie points on the board, like he's already not got a fucking jar full of the things. But yeah, 7.5 to Fernando Alonso. Finishing 8th place, it is Esteban Ocon, continuing his run of good form, really. Not the glamouring podium that we saw at Monaco, of course not, but here he is securing 8th place and doing a good job. You know, best of the rest category is this, to be honest, isn't it? You know, what do we expect people to finish behind? Well, it's the Red Bulls, it's the Mercedes, it's the Ferraris, it's the Aston Martins. He finished behind those, and here he is securing 8th place and doing a good job in the process. Solid drive, bit quiet, didn't really see much of him, to be honest. He did make a couple of good moves, did he? Or am I mistaking him for Gasly on that one? But we did see an Alpine quite active at one stage. And, you know, 8th place, 4 points, it's solid. It gaps them to McLaren even more now. They're in that deserving place of 5th in the Constructors. And, yeah, to be honest with you, Ferrari are getting the shit so badly wrong at the moment. But for them, luckily for Ferrari, their shit's going wrong, but the other teams are struggling even more. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think Ferrari should be 4th in the standings, but that's how life is, isn't it? And Esteban Ocon securing 4 points for Alpine. It's a solid effort, isn't it? Solid effort at a weekend where that's the best he was going to get. So for Esteban Ocon, Esti Besti, it's going to be 8.5 on the Cruel Room to him, and I think that's a good score, respectable score for his weekend's performance. 8.5 to Ocon. Finishing in 9th place, it is Zhou Guanyu with 2 crucial points for the Alfa Romeo squad. What could be said for his race weekend overall? He has really been showing up Valtteri Bottas in these last few races, hasn't he? It must be said. Okay, Monaco, a bit of an anomaly there, but that's fine. But yeah, I've said it for long enough. I really rated Zhou, and he's done fantastically well this season. But the car's just not been there to deliver the points, even though Zhou's got the pace to now. And here he is, taking full advantage and scoring a couple of points at a circuit where there was no retirements. Let's not forget that. All 20 cars finished that race, and that Alfa Romeo is around the 14th, 15th area on a good day. Might push top 12. Certainly didn't deserve to finish 9th though, did it? So a great strategy by the Alfa Romeo squad to get him up there, and his great driving skills got him into that 9th place. Yeah, you know, we had that tussle with Yuki Tsunoda, so he did cross the line 10th, of course, but that tussle with Sonoda, he went down the escape road. The FIA awarded him a 5-second time penalty to Sonoda for that incident. Was that Zhou's fault? No, I don't agree with the FIA's decision on that, but we'll talk more about that when we do get to Sonoda. But that's not Zhou's fault, and Zhou would have still finished 10th anyway. Still a good point. Zhou Guanyu this weekend, it's going to be 11 points on the crawl room to him, because I think that was an impeccable drive. A solid qualifying led into a great drive where he had to keep himself going, he had to keep fighting, he had to keep tussling. He was around the Hulkenberg area as well. He just kept getting his elbows out and stayed in some great positions. He was more often than not always in the points that weekend, apart from when he pitted. 11 points on the crawl room to Zhou Guanyu. Finishing in 10th place, it is of course Pierre Gasly, a weekend of what could have been for him, it must be said. Yeah, I don't really know what to say, to be honest. It was just unfortunate, wasn't it? He was 4th in qualifying overall on merit, but got 2 3-place grid drops, which is a total of 6, of course, for those that can't do quick maths, because he was blocking cars in Q1, and he blocked Sainz, he blocked Verstappen. It has to be a penalty. You know, it doesn't matter who you block or where they end up finishing in qualifying. He blocked 2 cars on their runs, and they were both incredibly lazy blockings as well. There was opportunity to get out of the way before that car arrived on the scene, and he obviously wasn't told the right information over the radio, but he obviously weren't looking in his mirrors as well. So Gasly was to blame. Started 10th, finished 10th. He dropped down the order significantly off the line, actually, and was down and around 15th for quite a while, but the strategy and the overtakes that he did, getting his elbows out on the Hassers and around Nick de Vries, he managed to get himself back into 10th place, although it was 11th on the road, of course, just outside the points. Elevated to 10th due to Sonoda's penalty, so looked into that final point there, but put himself in that position to capitalise. So overall for Pierre Gasly this weekend, I've not been too harsh with him, but at the same time I've not been too kind. It's 6.5 on the crawl room to him, and I feel that might be generous by half a point there, to be honest with you. But he did pick up a point in the end, did recover his weekend in a little way of at least scoring a point. Again, points make prizes with Alpine, gaps McLaren of that little bit more, and yeah, it was a weekend of what could have been for Gasly, but had he started up there in 4th, could he have had a tangle like what Norris did and then just mitigated his qualifying altogether? You just don't know, do you? So at least he picked up a point anyway. 6.5 to Pierre Gasly. Finishing just outside the points paying positions is, of course, Sha-la-la. Oh, sacre bleu, sha-la-la. What do I do? What have I got to do to make you love me? I honestly don't know, Charles. Yeah, that Ferrari's red, but that's as much love as you're getting at the moment. That's just heartbreaking, isn't it? Just heartbreaking. I don't even know what to say. What can you say? Qualified 19th. 19th. The car came out of part ferme. They changed parts, they changed components. They made a pit lane start, and he made no progress. No progress. We were looking on board, like halfway through the race. Where is he? 15th, 16th. Like what? He only had a Williams and a Hash. You know, like what is going on? Like just no pace whatsoever. And then to finish the race 12th over the line, and then to not even get elevated into the points by Sonoda's penalty as well. Like he just proves that he's just got no luck at all this season. Yeah, it's annoying because I think there's so much talent now wasted in shit cars. You know, they've got into the sport. They've had these moments of glory. And now the team are just letting them down. You know, so Charles Leclerc, what a shame. I can only award him a middle-of-the-road 5 points this weekend, to be honest with you. That's all I can do. I can't slate him because it's clearly a car issue. It's got to be. There's got to be something fundamentally wrong with that car. You just don't get 19th place and 11th in a race in a Ferrari. There was something wrong with that car all weekend, and they clearly need to just strip it back to bare bones and start again because there was something really wrong with it. It can't all have been Charles's fault. So yeah, a middle of the road 5. I'm treating him like a retirement, really. And here he is finishing 11th. 5 points to Sha-la-la. Finishing 9th on the road, but here he is in 12th place. It's Yuki Tsunoda. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I did not think that was a 5-second time penalty. And yes, I know I've been really friendly with Sonoda this season and really liked him. And I've enjoyed seeing what he's become and how mature he's become as a driver and how great he's been at picking up the points and just nearly getting into the points. In a car that's dog shit, it's so frustrating that a 9th place finish comes to nothing because of the FIA once again. I don't agree that it was a 5-second time penalty because Sonoda pushed Zhou out wide, fair enough. Zhou bailed out of it before Sonoda even fully pushed him off the track. There was still a car's width available there for Zhou if he wanted to decide to just back out like that or to try and have a go up the inside. There was still a car's width in my eyes. That's from Zhou's on board, that's from Sonoda's on board, that's from the TV cameras that we all saw. In my opinion, there was still a car's width there. Maybe that car width would have closed. Admittedly, it's Sonoda, it probably would have done. But you can't penalise on what could have happened because Zhou bailed out of it before that was closed. And that, to me, means that Sonoda gave him a car's width. And what happened to all this about the driver dictating, has the dictation of where he can go if he's half a car length ahead? Weren't that supposed to be in the FIA rules as well, where if the car is on the inside, but then do they declare Zhou on the inside because we've just come from a corner that goes right about to go left? I just think they make it up as they go along, and I think Sonoda, they were probably thinking, well, you know, maybe Alfa Romeo are paying more money. I don't know what's happening there, but I didn't approve of the penalty at all. I don't think it was a harsh move, you know, by Sonoda. But you're battling, and that is an important battle. You know, whether it's for 1st or for 9th or 10th, as we mentioned there, the mitigations that this penalty has had has meant that Alfa Romeo have got further ahead of AlphaTauri as opposed to the position swapping round, or certainly been a lot closer anyway, had the move taken place and been completed without penalty. Yeah, it was a crucial move by two drivers and two teams that are battling for every single point they can get. Was it borderline? Absolutely. Was it great racing? Yes, it bloody was. Did Sonoda push him off the track? No. Did he squeeze him? Yes, and there's a difference there for me. Sonoda squeezed him, but he didn't force him off track. Zhou did not have to go down that escape road at that time. Had Sonoda fully pushed him off the track, then maybe, yeah, we could be talking about it in a different way. But Sonoda didn't fully shut the door before the Zhou bailed, and he got a 5-second time penalty anyway. So very, very harsh in my opinion, and poor Sonoda. Should have been 2 points there, buddy. But I'm going to award him 9 points on the cruel room, and I think that's a good score. You know, Zhou stole the day for me. I think even if Sonoda would have scored 9th and Zhou 10th, or Zhou 9th, Sonoda 10th, I think Zhou would have still stolen the day for me because he's been blowing hot and cold, so to speak, you know, and he's not being able to show his true ability due to the car, whereas Sonoda's constantly over-delivered. But yeah, Sonoda for me did not deserve a 5-second time penalty. I feel sorry for AlphaTauri, I feel sorry for Sonoda, and it's 9 points on the cruel room to him. Then we come to Oscar Pastry, and what's your favourite pastry? Because mine's Filou pastry. Thanks for the comments in the comment section below of Monaco. Yeah, because I quickly ran out of what kind of pastries there are, and I'm sure there's fucking millions of them. But yeah, please tell me down below what your favourite pastry is. Yeah, definitely Filou this week. Definitely Filou pastry. Delicious. Can't even tell you what it looks like. So, Oscar Pastry finishing in unlucky for some 13th place. Qualified 10th, that was decent to be honest. It wasn't a bad run by Pastry, was it? He did okay. But unfortunately just couldn't capitalise on the qualifying session. Couldn't qualify on that 10th place finish and couldn't stay there inside the points and just gradually ebbed away, slipped away from those places, and here he is finishing 13th. I think for a rookie this season, he's not done too bad, has he? Wasn't his best race this season, no, but it was certainly a good and respectable race for the car he's got. So, for that reason, it's going to be 6.5 on the crawl room to Oscar Pastry. Yeah, I think he's done a good job this season overall. I think he's doing really well to match Lando. And this race where it looked like Lando had got the measure of his teammate once again, Lando went and fucked up, and Oscar couldn't capitalise on the qualifying where he started. You know, it was all a little bit difficult there. It was a shame. It was a big opportunity there to score points while Lando screwed up. That could have really been to Oscar, but it wasn't to be. But 13th place, 6.5 on the crawl room to him. Finishing 14th place, it is Nick de Vries. Ah, Nick, it's just not going well, is it? It's just not happening for him. It's not quite clicking. Not quite clicking. It's a shame. He's up against it. The pressure all got to him. Absolutely, it would have done. And I just think he needs to calm down, you know. Was it a good race this weekend? I mean, technically, yeah, because he did out-qualify Sonoda, didn't he? Although he didn't. Sonoda had a good enough lap for 12th, I think it was, in qualifying. Got deleted, dropped to 15th. De Vries started 14th and finished 14th. So you look at the paper on there and you go, yeah, that's not a bad weekend, that. But then you see what Sonoda did further up the road and, you know, across the line 9th. It was unfair with the 5-second time penalty there. But, you know, he still finished ahead of him even with a 5-second time penalty. And that's a shame. You know, if Sonoda's up there doing that, and we never really rated Sonoda at the end of last season, did we? We're all expecting De Vries to beat him. Should have been within the window to capitalise from that 5-second time penalty at the very least. So yeah, middle of the row 5, I'm going to award Nick de Vries this weekend. And we saw a couple of good moves from him, but we mainly saw him going backwards, didn't we? There was a lot of overtakes that were on de Vries as opposed to de Vries making the overtakes. So yeah, a little bit tricky, bit of a shame. But a middle of the row 5 to Nick de Vries. Finishing in 15th place after a fantastic qualifying, it's Nico Hulkenberg. What could be said? The Haas was just chewing its bloody tyres again, wasn't it? A great one-lap pace. He got into Q3, qualified 8th, elevated to 7th with Gasly's penalties. Yeah, it just couldn't stay there. Just couldn't stay in the points. Just kept tumbling down one by one. It was an early stopper every time as well, wasn't he? So it meant that he had an advantage and he elevated himself back up into that 10th area. We saw some good battles there with the likes of Zhou, as we already mentioned. Gasly coming through. There was Oscar Piastri there as well. You know, so some good dices and duels. But in the end, he lost out to them all and finishing 15th. Just a shame, isn't it? But yeah, that Haas just chewing the tyres up just didn't look good at all, did it? It's 6 points to Nico Hulkenberg. Haas, just when they start to look good again, they just throw it all away, and you can't blame the drivers for that. You know, if a car's chewing tyres, a car's chewing tyres. There's only so much tyre management a driver can do, and if the setup's just screwing the tyres up for you, then you may as well be as quick as you can for as long as you can and just try and hold on. But yeah, was to no avail this time for Hulkenberg, and a great qualifying performance goes missing once again. No points on the board. 6 to Nico Hulkenberg. Then we come to Alex Albon. Oh, Alex. What a shame. Just nothing this weekend for Williams whatsoever. They were chewing the tyres more than they were at Monaco. James Vowles obviously said at Monaco how bad the car was on tyres. Apparently this weekend they were even worse. So a Q1 exit for both of the Williams drivers this weekend meant that we were really on course for a tough afternoon, weren't we? And a tough afternoon we got. But Alex did manage to get up there at times, didn't he? Up to like that 14th, 13th area. Never got to the dizzying heights of the points, sadly, but was always there, elbows out, trying to do what he could. It was just a shame, though, wasn't it? It was a shame just to see him down there and pretty lonely, to be honest. He overtook K-Mag towards the end of the race, so that's something, I suppose. Finishing ahead of Lando Norris. That has to be commended. You know, there's little points there where you can think, yeah, that's a little mini tick, little victory. But it's not the sensational, staggering results that we're all wanting and expecting from Williams, especially in the hands of Albon. We want more points, but they will come once they manage to get this tyre deck sorted out. Canada could be a good circuit for that, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, for now, Alex Albon, I'm going to award him 7 points. 7 points on the crawl room to him. He couldn't do anything else. He was down there at the back of the grid. He couldn't get it further forward, as much as he tried. He finished ahead of a handful of cars. I think that's respectable in its own right, to be honest with you, judging by how badly Williams were this weekend. And yeah, a solid 7 to Alex Albon. And then we come to Lando Norris.
Hey, at least I finished 3 full F1 seasons before being dropped. Julian never even finished 2.
Oh my God, Lando. Oh, Jesus Christ. Talk about dropping 20 quid and finding a sixpence. Honest to God, what was all that about? What a shame. What a silly, silly error to make on lap 1. That half-assed attempt on... Well, I don't even know what it was. It was just a half-assed attempt to tap in the back of Lewis Hamilton. I just didn't get it. It was just a nothing move. It was like he just... Yeah, I don't know. It was just all a shame, wasn't it? I mean, qualifying P3 was absolutely stunning. He got off the line well. It looked like he was going to be up the inside of Sainz at one point, but conceded to him. Then as a result of him conceding, it meant he lost out to Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis Hamilton was ahead there, and he's like, oh, I just want to get past you again, and just tapped him. Tapped him on the entry to turn 3, wasn't it? And just tapped him, flicked his wing off. Damage, needed a new wing. Down at the back of the grid, there was no safety cars, there was no interventions of any sort for him to try and recover the situation. And here he is finishing down in 17th place. It has to be Latifi worthy. I'm sorry, but he threw a perfectly good grid position away there just from a little moment of madness, I suppose. You know, it's such a shame to see just concede the position. 4th still good, and if you had good pace, then I mean, he could have easily finished inside the top 10. I would say, you know, if Ocon finished 8th, that could have been Lando's spot. But I'm not saying it was going to be anything better than that. But it could have been an 8th place finish, absolutely, for Lando, and could have been 4 crucial points to McLaren. But as it was, a silly error that was all 100% Lando's fault. He has to be Latifi worthy. I'm sorry, undoes all his hard work and breaks his wing. Needless. Absolutely needless. So yeah, Latifi of the week to Lando Norris. Then we come to Kevin Magnussen finishing in 18th place in the Haas, and he's pretty much the same as Hulkenberg this weekend, chewing up his tyres, couldn't stop him. Degradation all the way. Degradation, I know. Do 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 do. Yeah, that's all it was. Degradation, couldn't stop it, and that was that. Middle of the row 5, I'm going to award K-Mag this weekend. I got Hulkenberg 6. Hulkenberg had a great qualifying, tumble down the order. K-Mag, not as good qualifying, and still tumble down the order. But we did see a couple of good overtakes, so I think that's fair enough. Middle of the row 5 to Kevin Magnussen. Finishing in 19th place, we come to Valtteri Bottas.
Hey, can I let you in on a little secret? I developed a fetish for crashing cars during my time in F1, and it really turned me on when the team told me off. Now I have to keep smashing my mom's TV to get the same buzz. Ooh, I'm such a bad boy.
Oh dear, Valtteri Bottas. Oh dear, oh dear. I can't believe it. 19th place. And your teammate finishes 10 places ahead of you. 10! That's ridiculous. I was saying that Zhou was matching Bottas this season, and here he is beating him. Unbelievable stuff. Yeah, 10 places ahead. I don't know if there's an answer for that. We could even find out there's a mechanical issue, but it shouldn't be that far down the order, should he? He shouldn't still be 10 places behind. That was unbelievable, that. So yeah, not much to say for Valtteri Bottas this weekend. It was just shown up by a much better Zhou. That's the end of that. So yeah, Latifi of the week to Valtteri Bottas. And last of the runners, that's right, all 20 drivers finished this weekend, and finishing in last place, it is of course Logan Sargeant in the Williams. Now he is a rookie, so I've got to give him a little bit of sympathy here and there, but in regards to what he did this weekend, it was pretty poor, wasn't it? It was pretty poor. We didn't see much of him. He had a crash in practice 3, which wasn't ideal. Yeah, it was just a tough weekend all along, wasn't it, to be honest? Qualified last, finished last. Shame. Just all a bit of a shame. So yeah, for Logan Sargeant this weekend, the car is partly to blame. It's still chewing its tyres up incredibly badly, but he was just never further up than back, was he, really, to be honest? So yeah, Logan Sargeant, 3 points on the crawl room to him. People will probably say that's generous, but I still think he deserves at least some recognition for at least being a rookie in the worst car on the grid for tyre degradation, at least. And when tyre degradation plays such a key part, it means that a car that might be a little bit faster than an AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo on the day, doesn't finish ahead of them. So yeah, last place, to be expected somewhat, and 3 points to Logan Sargeant. So there we have it then, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the Spanish Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high, any too low? The updated points table is on the screen now for you to take a look at, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's not in order, that's not in order. Where are they? I can't find them, I can't work them out. Well, here is the screen now for you to take a look at for the standings. There you go. The green means they've gone up at least one position, red means they have fallen at least one position, and blue means they've stayed the same. So, where's your favourite driver now? Have they gone up? Have they gone down? Have they closed the gap at the top? Are they slipping further away from this Cruel Room Championship? It is hotting up, it's hot and spicy stuff, don't we know it? Thanks as always go out to Dan of Mushy Gaming, of course, for providing me with this scoreboard that you see on the screen now. He also does the intro, the outro, and the driver icons that you see in the corner of your screen as I talk to him. Who could forget, of course, Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for creating the Latifi of the Week skits, and the voice of Nicholas Latifi himself, Dominic Orlando. A massive thanks go out to him. For all your efforts, thank you so much, guys. Without you all, this series would be more pointless than it already is. I will see you all in a couple of weeks' time for the Canadian Grand Prix, Lance Stroll's home race, Nicholas Latifi's home race. Could we have a special Nicholas Latifi of the Week? Who knows? Let's find out, shall we? But I'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time, and I'll look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, much love.